Select Board meeting to order at 7:04. Please join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First item on the agenda is the April 18th Select Board minutes. If everybody's had a chance to review them, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
The 8th or the 18th?
8th.
Okay.
April 8th.
April 8th.
Yes. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Moved by Gray, seconded by McCarthy. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I'll abstain just because I wasn't.
Okay. Passes with one abstention. Next on the agenda is an appointment with Paul Sordillo. Paul is not here. Andrew, will you?
Lohar is here.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, Paul Sordillo and Andrew Lohar. Veterans Agent, read 2026 Memorial Day street dedications. They are Raymond Russell Chase, corner of Samoset and Phipps. Patrick O'Hare, Vietnam War, sign placement location, K Street and Nantasket Ave. Raymond B. Straczynski, Senior, U.S. Marine Corps, Korean War Infantry Sergeant, doesn't say what street. Francis J. Tierney, U.S. Navy Korean War Aviation Photographer. Frederick Martin, Tobman, Second Class Petty Officer, U.S. Navy Vietnam War, sign placement location 2 Center Avenue. Andrew, we don't have locations for Straczynski and Tierney?
Not offhand, I'm not sure. Paul would have that information.
Okay.
I believe Tandy would be Nantasket Road.
That's correct. Tierney is Nantasket Road and 3rd Street. And down there, there's an island right there. And put it.
Great. Good. Would you like to speak to this at all, Andrew?
I know Paul gave everyone the information. We had a War Memorial Commission meeting. We were one short of a quorum, but we all agreed that we all approved the names and the locations on the street.
Great. Thank you. Jen?
And I would just like to add one thank you, Andrew, for his service, and as well as to the town. But we will be, over the course of the summer, and I'm probably a little bit beyond, replacing all the veteran signs that need replacement. We'll get through as many as we can, but
Thank you for
we will eventually get through all of them.
Yes, thank you.
Great. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'd be glad to entertain that motion.
Okay. Moved by Gray. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by McCarthy. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Andrew, thank you. Thank you for the work that you do for the town. It's much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you for the approval.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Coastal Marine Properties, LLC. Read the HRA parking lot application for 75 cars at 0 Water Street. Yes.
Good evening. Joseph Riley, Coastal Marine Properties.
Okay, would you like to speak to the application?
If the application has all the information, if you have any specific questions, I can.
Any questions from
So I have a quick question. So Joe, can you, or anyone, so we just, last week we awarded 275, so now there's 2 different parking people down there now?
There were 2 RFPs put out, or 2 contracts issued.
Okay.
And this is the second one. And I believe this is a triangle lot, correct?
This is
Joe?
the lot closest to the hotel, I think it's 75 cars. The other lot was further down by the comfort station.
Okay. Oh, I didn't, yeah. So did they group them in? I thought it was all one, no?
Well, they did 2 separate bids.
Last year too?
No.
I
Oh, I was
don't
gonna
think
say,
this is the first
getting
that
old,
I
so you don't remember, but,
recall.
oh,
Yep.
awesome, yeah. So, that being said, I'll make a motion to approve Coastal Marine Properties LLC, HRA parking lot application for 75 cars at 0 Water Street.
Could you add the piping over information to
And including in that application that you,
the
put out what's kind of like, put some signage regarding the pipe and plover. If you can talk to the beach management committee, I think it's Susan Mann. I think she has
She has signed.
signed, so she'll be tracking you down, Joe, trust me.
Also to
Yeah.
place trash receptacles at the lot.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Trash receptacles at the lot.
Just one trash can as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll second.
Particular size?
Just big enough to hold trash,
Yeah.
a reasonable amount of trash.
Can I just ask a question? I'm sorry to interrupt the flow, but can I just ask, it's not Mr. Riley, but with the Triangle Lot, just in case there are people watching, there is it's treated a little bit differently with the use of locals and the businesses, people visiting the business, right? Do you have that information
I
offhand?
don't have that, I don't have it on hand, and I don't, typically over the past few years, and Joe, just again to confirm, it's not the Triangle Lot that you're leasing out, right? It's the end, it's the furthest, the lot closest to, so the,
Closest to the beach, closest to the hotel, not the square one that they use for parking for the
Gazebo,
gazebo.
yeah. So it is that
Yeah,
one.
so it is the triangle lot.
it is the Triangle Lot, okay, so maybe it did change then this year.
But I thought I did read something about in that particular lot will also be permitted for use for people parking for businesses there, or?
We were trying to work something out with the local businesses. Don't have any definite information yet, but we're looking at the first part of the day, mostly beachgoers. Second part of the day, you have people coming into town to use different businesses.
And was that part of is that connected to the RFP that you had with the HRA? This is just because, people are watching, people will be curious. It's just, I know it was already approved by the HRA.
I don't think it was anything formal in writing. I think it's trying to
Coordinate something.
through the association with the businesses, with town and business spots, because parking is going to be even tighter this year without that big lot.
Right.
We can request that the HRA provide us information, and we can share that with the board.
All right, I just have a question, too. The lot that has 275, if you have municipal sticker, you're allowed to park there. Is that part of yours, too?
Yes.
Okay.
That's good.
So he made the
Okay.
motion, I seconded.
Okay, motion moved by McCarthy, seconded by Gray. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Passes.
Good luck.
Yes, best of luck to you. Thank you. Next on the agenda is PCA 360, the Town Hall relocation project, and an update, budget update. Turn it over to you, Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, as you noted, Town Hall relocation project and budget update is on the agenda for this evening. I want to welcome back Greg Walsh and Brian Roche, the town's OPMs on this project, who are here to provide the board and community with an update at town meeting, which I will remind everybody is Monday, May 4th at 7 p.m. at Hull High School. We will be requesting an additional $4 million to support this project. The initial authorization back in 2024 was for $3 million to get the project underway, and that $3 million enabled us to begin the planning work for the relocation, bring the OPMs on board, and start the architectural work. I just want to remind everybody about the process for a public building project, because we not only have this project in motion right now, but are anticipating future building projects, which do take time, and there are a number of potential funding phases throughout the projects that require us, any public building that is a 1.5 million or above, to first secure an owner's project manager, who then assists with bringing the architects on board. And I won't get too deep into it, because I think we're going to cover that, or Brian's going to cover this in the presentation. But that starts off your design work, doing your needs assessments, speaking with staff about what their future needs will be, preliminarily building that out, going back to staff that are involved to refine those needs and that design, before we then have to go back out to bid for the construction work for a related project. And then in the middle there is when you get your actual cost estimate. Once you know what your space needs are and how you're going to be building out, what in this case, our furniture needs, our utility needs will be. And so, for example, the HVAC AC units, that's when we are able to have a more definitive final estimate on the project cost. And that's largely the reason why we are asking for the additional $4 million at town meeting this year. It is a process. It does take a considerable amount of time, and I know maybe that wasn't communicated well enough in the beginning, but nothing is really awry with the project. You'll hear there are no large bells and whistles on this project that made the number double, and that's probably the last time you'll hear me refer to it that way. It's really just the reality of what this project is. And I would be remiss to say, in a lot of ways, we're fortunate to have a new town hall project at only a cost of $7 million, as opposed to something that would have required acquisition or full construction. Mm-hmm. So with that, unless you have questions for me, I will turn it over to Brian.
Sure. All right. Thank you very much. So we were before you a couple months ago, and so we've updated our presentation now that we have more information to provide you. So just a quick update on the project schedule. Nothing has really changed too much. We just now are reflecting that we have the project funding that we've added into the schedule, and that's where we're at right now. So after we complete town meeting and get the appropriation of funds, we'll be able to proceed with the design that will get us bid documents so we can go out to the street. So that's where we're at right now. And we presented this slide to you, which was a very preliminary budget that we created for that. And at the time, and I highlighted in yellow, is we hadn't received our construction estimate from our design team yet. They had just completed the schematic design, which Jen was speaking about, the programming phase and getting the preliminary design to a level that we could get and get it to the estimator and have them provide us some pricing. So that's where we were when we met with you last. And so in this particular budget that I presented to you, we just started with the original appropriation and kind of worked everything backwards and told you what what was available for construction. But at that time, we hadn't known what the actual cost was. So now we do. So we received a very detailed estimate from PMC, which was working for the design team. And in this estimate, on the left was the base scope of work that the design team put together, and then we asked them to price sort of an a la carte menu of other options so that we could, with the help of the town, kind of tailor a scope of work that would fit the needs of the town based on some of the pricing that we have here. So we prepared several options for consideration. And I'll just go over the initial two, which aren't the preferred options, but I'll just want to explain to you sort of how we got where we are. So option one was the absolute minimal work to move the town hall into the existing building, and that was our effort to try and stay within the original appropriation. This option has a lot of problems with it in that we're not really building out the spaces, so we're not appropriately fitting the departments into each of the spaces. So we would end up taking the entire building, the middle school building, for the town hall use. And what we know through going through the programming effort and so forth, that we could actually reserve a good amount of the building for future use. So we figured out a way to do that pretty efficiently, but it does require removing walls, constructing walls, creating openings in some of the corridors and masonry walls and so forth. So that was option one that we looked at. And then option two, if we were to do the full build out, but not touch any of the existing systems, what would that look like? And it ends up being about a $5 million project. But the challenge with the school building is it wasn't meant to be occupied year-round. So town hall is a year-round occupancy, and the issue is there's no air conditioning for most of that building. There's only an air conditioning unit in the administrative office areas at the first floor, and at the the library. But the rest of the building didn't have it. It didn't need it because it was a school building. So what we looked at for the long term, if you're looking for a project at 30 years for the town to invest in this building and make it right for the town to run, a town hall that's going to work for the full year, we really should be considering air conditioning all of these spaces that we're creating for the town hall offices. And so this budget that we put together at $7.3 million, based on the construction estimate we got from the design team, this is what it would take in order to do that. And in this option, we're looking at carpeting the offices, removing the lockers, and really making the aesthetics of the building municipal, and so that it reads like a town hall. And this is really the right option for the long term for the town. So this, you can see on the right, is just a quick how we took this construction estimate and kind of adjusted the numbers. We had to do a little bit of work to tailor it. We cut out some scope that we didn't think was appropriate and made sure we put in what was. So we really feel like this is, based on what we got from the design team, this is the right budget for the town. So we think this gives you the highest and best use of the building and the best outcome for the long term. So I'll show you how this fits into the overall budget that we prepared for you now that we can plug in a number for the construction cost. So obviously construction is not the whole of the project. There's other soft costs and contingencies that we have to cover for a project. So under administration, we have your OPM, which is our company. We have BH+A, which is our architect, plus their subconsultants, which is the architecture and engineering. And so these two portions of your budget, we have already encumbered the funds. That was some, we went through a procurement process and provided a proposal, and the same for the design team. So that portion of your budget on the left is pretty much locked in. On the right is what we're planning for you right now. So other project costs we're looking at, we have some exploratory work with this existing building to make sure some of the assumptions in the early design hold true. We have to bid the project, so there's some cost for doing that. And then during the course of construction, we're building a new town, 6-hour rated vault. So some heavy construction we have to do, so we have to do some construction materials testing to meet the building code. And then we got to furnish the building. So we had, the architect went and they had a consultant that prepared a budget. We just completed a town hall project for the town of Middleton, so we were able to look at their furniture budget. So we feel like we've put together a right number for the furniture, fixtures, and equipment based on the preliminary design. Obviously, as we move further into the project, we'll go out to bid on these furniture, and our effort is to try and better this number, but we think this is a good budget number. So then the next line of technology, computers, audiovisual, these are so that we can, we have many different types of meeting rooms throughout the design, large, medium, and some small breakout spaces, plus we have this hearing room. So these costs for the technology, computers, and audiovisual largely is for those meeting spaces, and also to fit out some of the offices for the town hall as well. And then we have to move. We have to move all the contents, not the furniture, but the contents from here, and get that over to the new building, so we have some moving costs. So that is your total soft cost budget of about a little under 1.3. And then the construction costs, as I outlined in the slide before, at 5.5 million, and then contingencies. Any project that you do, you always have to carry some soft cost contingency and one for hard cost. So on hard cost, which is your construction, we recommend carrying 10% contingency. And we do that on anything that's a renovation project because there are a lot of unknowns. There are things we can't see through walls. If we were doing a new project ground up, we would say 5% because everything we're doing is something we're putting in. So we think it's prudent to carry this number of about 500,000 for contingency on construction. And when you add up the whole budget, that's how we arrive at 7.1 million $7,142,708, which is a budget. Obviously, we have to complete the design. We got to go out to bid. We're still in a very favorable market right now for bidding out construction. Our office is bidding other projects right now, and Greg was at a buyout meeting today for a project, and we are seeing some good numbers. So, right now, we feel pretty confident that we built you a budget we think is appropriate, and we think that the environment right now is good. And obviously, throughout the process, we're always looking for opportunities to do better. So with that, that's really the bulk of our presentation. I have the slides of the floor plans, which I presented to you before. I don't need to get into those unless you have questions. I'm happy to bring those up and show you them. But that's our presentation for tonight. So if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
I'm just wondering if you could just briefly go through the floor plans for the folks that are watching and
Of course.
folks that are here.
Be happy to. So the lower level of the building is largely other uses. South Shore Collaborative is using a majority of the lower level. So that's the sort of dark purple color. And the sort of tan color is the lobby area, which is a shared space. And green is the dedicated area for the town hall. So this green area in the lower level is going to be storage, and the area identified in red is the 2-hour rated vault for the clerk's records. 6-hour, thank you, Greg. It's a substantial construction, and it has to be on the lowest level of the building because it has to be survivable if the building had a fire. So that's what
Is that a requirement, the 6-hour rated?
It is.
vault?
It's part of the state, Secretary of State's requirements for records. Yep.
Thank you.
So we've been working with Lori West on her storage needs, because if you look at the vault that we have here, it's substantially larger than what we're proposing. But what we're doing is we're organizing sort of the needs of storage between, there's different levels of care that you have to do to different records. So we are providing other areas within the building for the clerk for secure storage that's dedicated exclusively to the clerk, and then some more common storage too. Oh, sure.
What about any flooding concerns down there with the vault? Is it flood-proof, or is that not really that big?
It's above flood elevation. I have looked at that because it is definitely a concern here. So we are, the building code requires us to be more than 2 feet above flood. That's your design flood elevation. The lower level is at this point in the building. The gym is lower, so that is not the same. But where this vault is planned is more than 2 feet above the design flood elevation, which essentially is, you're more than like 4 feet above flood.
Is there some flood proofing in the vault, though, in some kind of way? Like, what if we did have a major storm event that rose to that level, which is not that unlikely, right?
It's a good question. There is not anything particularly that we can do to this vault. In order to save on cost, we're using a vault that is pre-manufactured. So it's a system that sort of comes together and is, it's built at a factory and then assembled, versus us doing a cast-in-place vault. That was one of our ways of saving some of the cost on the budget. But we can look into it. Valid questions, and maybe we look at elevating it above the slab another foot.
Maybe it's more about a responsibility of the clerk and kind of managing documents appropriately within the space. And,
sure.
Yeah.
No, it's a great comment, and we will bring it up in the next step when we're doing design. And if there's anything we can do to enhance that, we will.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So that's at the lower level. And the areas in gray are also really shared spaces. But we see, if you had a future use of community, these would be areas that would be largely used by that function. So when you see areas that are sort of grayed out in the plan, that's sort of what we're seeing as future programmatic space. But it's not part of our scope that we're tackling with this project. And then this is the main level. As you come up the center staircase at the front of the building and enter, it's the middle floor.
we call it the first floor, but it's really that middle level of the building. And this is the areas to the top that are sort of that brown, grayish color, warm gray, is the future use that we were looking at, so it's not part of the town hall function. But what we were looking at as a potential future is if you did use it as a community, you come in the front door from an organization standpoint, left is town hall, right is community, and then the functions, the shared space of the auditorium and the gym and so forth are all on that side of the building. So from a programmatic standpoint and organization, it seems to make a lot of sense. And then, so as you come in on the left, at the front corner of the building, at the lower right of the plan, is the clerk's office. We have nurse, clinician space as you come in the corner, and then veterans, because we see that as those are spaces that the community function might interact the most with. So we thought it was most appropriate to put them closer to that first floor and first few spaces that you reach. And then from there, we have I have to look I can't read that far. That's why I brought printed plans, because I can't read the screen from here. Sorry. Of course, I'm not the architect, we're the project managers, but I'm happy to, so here we go, I can read the plan. So on the main level, on the first floor, you come in, so as you come down the corridor towards the left, the back, very back, the two purple rooms those are meeting rooms that we're creating. And again, one of the things we identified during the programming phase is the need for meeting space is paramount. We do not have enough in the town, and having spaces that are flexible, different shaped spaces for different purposes and so forth. So that's what those two spaces are. But they also double as future growth for the town too. So the space on that corner of the wing that's gray is meant as future expansion space for the town, because we are planning for minimum 30 years. Probably going to be more than that. And it's likely that there will be some growth in the town departments. And so that corner would be for that. And then there's another one in between. And you'll see some more upstairs too. And that makes sense for town hall planning as the town grows through the years. And then so on the main level, we have tax collector, treasurer, and retirement at the lower part of the plan. And above that, we have town assessor. And then as I mentioned before, the nurse, veterans, and town clerk. So that is the main level. And then if we were to go to the next, this is the upper floor of the building. And I'll start at the top right of the plan, which is the hearing room. So we get a much larger meeting room, a wider dais, for the board to meet at, so that it works much better as a hearing space. We, more than double the amount of seating capacity, and then we have sort of diagonally across the hall TV, so that they're close by to support. And then we have the green bar is the town administrator space. And that conference room that you see right behind the hearing room is meant to be, you serve double duty. It becomes a breakout room, so if you have to go into executive session, you can step out and use that room as a breakout space. It can serve as a meeting space for the town administrator's office as well. So it has, the way the plan is laid out, it's meant to be very multi-purpose function for almost all the spaces that we have here. And so the green is the town manager. I said administrator, I'm sorry, town manager. And then as we come down the front of the building, lower right-hand corner, we have the flex, there's a flex office space. So if you had auditors coming in, that would be a space that they would use, but also doubles as an expansion space too. And then we have town accountants, are the two offices at the very corner there. And then as you come the lower part of the plan, you come down the corridor, you have the Board of Health and the building department, which work very closely together. And so we wanted to keep that arrangement in the new plan. And then, we provided for expansion in terms of storage capacity. So what you see for file storage is we're planning, again, for 30 years minimum of growth. And then across the hall on that bar is the planning department, and then the gray spaces left and right of that planning office is, we have restrooms and then some storage space, and then the women's room right at the sort of inside corner. And then again, more these meeting spaces that have the ability to be flexible. We have those 2 purple spaces, and then on the very corner, at the end of the corridor, we have the conservation office, and then some other storage as well. So at the very top of the plan, near where the auditorium balcony is the central file storage. And that was one of the things that we saw when we were meeting with departments. A lot of them were storing their files within their spaces, but they didn't necessarily need them. So in order to sort of clean up some of the office spaces and get them less crowded, we've identified a method of using a central file storage at the top of the plan. And then as I come down below that, we have the IT department, Hull TV, and then break room for the staff at the inside corner, and then another small breakout space. So that's the floor plan.
Any questions, comments?
I didn't hear anything about the senior, potential senior center rooms.
That's what I was sort of describing as community. I didn't want to be too specific about it.
So is the community room going to have like kitchens and anything like that, like the regular senior citizen would have?
So
Center would have?
we're planning for the future space, but we're not building that out. That's not part of this scope of work. So by doing this layout that we have, we wanted to make sure that we didn't do anything that would preclude that use in the future, but that would be a separate project.
I think to maybe further a little bit on that, Brian, the space on the first floor that's consolidated by the auditorium, that is the part of what Brian was referring to as community space, so the ground out rooms. And then we do have under the town, under the memorandum of agreement, the kitchen, the commercial kitchen on the ground floor for town use. And so if that became the senior center, they will have access to that kitchen.
On a different level?
It would be on a different level.
Yeah, I don't know if that would work. I mean, in my personal opinion, I don't think that would work. I think you'd want the kitchen as it is now at the senior center, because that's kind of like, it's an area where people congregate.
Yep.
And to have a separate thing like that, especially with the older generations, the ones that are actually doing the cooking, what have you. So that would have to be addressed if we go in that route.
So if we do go that route, they'll go through the same process of programming out the space to help fit the needs of the senior center. That space, the yellow space next, adjacent to the kitchen area, is common space. So, we've discussed with the school, potential for making that not necessarily cafeteria, but place where if the senior center's using the kitchen, they would have access to tables.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, right now as we're talking, like, to add, like, plumbing in at a later date, to add, anything like that, kitchenettes or cooking or heating or anything like that. I don't know. I mean, obviously, you have to have some kind of water source close to that, to where you want to, build it out.
Yep, so some of the classrooms upstairs do have sinks, and I know when we walk through the COA, they kind of, and again, it's so preliminary because they would sit with architects and build it out, but they did identify some spaces that might work for similar to what they have right now.
Yeah, there's like in this particular, so we're reserving like sort of the top part of the plan. That's where the locker rooms are right now on the lowest level. But it's not hard to drive up your waste and water from that corner, and that's the portion of the building that we're reserving for that use.
Okay.
So it actually works quite well.
Okay.
Yep.
Just one question. I think it's important if you could touch on the air conditioning, because that is the #1 driver. And I guess, like, if we stayed old school and had this big, giant, loud, obnoxious air conditioner, we'd be replacing them all over the building probably every 5 to 6 years, and every meeting we have, it would be very loud. So that's obviously driving that, I think it was a $2 million line item. So
That's correct.
that was your process, you know, and I totally agree with it, because we need to move away from what we have in this room.
Yeah, and also, you know, you look at the front of the building, and the last thing you want to see is window air conditioners across the front facade. You know, we're trying to create a municipal building. I mean, it's incredible. The building does really look town hall, and the last thing we would want to do is sort of ruin that aesthetic. I'm just pulling up the image for effect, but yeah, the last thing you'd want to do is have window air conditioners hanging out of those windows, because it really does read as town hall. And so one of the options we had looked at was, you know, could we do, you know, window air conditioners in the back, but, you know, do, you know, different system on the front. But it's just, again, it's not ideal in terms of long term. If you're looking at this for 30+ years, from an energy standpoint and for maintenance and operations, sound, and so forth, the right solution is the one that we presented to you. It makes a lot of sense.
That's where the heavy cost is.
Correct.
in the new budget.
On the air
The
conditioning,
energy piece of it can't be underestimated. Air conditioning units versus a central system is much less efficient. So, and to your point, window units don't have a 30-year life expectancy, whereas a centralized system does. So, you know, it's a first cost, but, you know, last cost kind of analysis that you're doing of, you know, how much money do you save up front, but then how much more do you spend in energy, and how much more money do you spend in replacement over the 30-year period of time versus the upfront capital cost.
did you compare on the air conditioning mini splits with the roof units, or would not be feasible?
So that's what we asked the design team to consider, but they told us the most efficient would be a VRF system, so that it's that much more efficient because you're centralizing the equipment. And CU's, it's still cassettes, but it's a single unit on the roof, and then so if you have one space, say, is cold and the other space is hot, that system can sort of balance the temperatures between. So just a split system, everything's on its own. So it's just a much more efficient system. And then we're only making sort of one point of connection electrically on the roof, and it's one setup versus every department in every space would have to have this setup. So I thought like you were initially, but the design engineers were telling us you really should be doing VRF. It's less expensive.
It's effectively heat pump technology for, you know, commercial use. And the thing is, you know, you had said rooftop units. You know, traditional centralized rooftop units would have ductwork associated with them, whereas the mini splits, as Dr. Ryan was saying, it's a cassette for each space, and it's a small refrigerant line that connects it to the centralized rooftop condensing unit. So it's, you know, for this particular use where you're trying to retrofit an existing building, you don't want to have to build soffits or shafts to ductwork from a big, you know, rooftop-based air handling unit. It's much more feasible to move with a VRF system.
Going off of that, I think my question might be a combination also for you, Jen, which is, you know, thinking ahead. I remember when we were figuring out this lease, and we were really figuring, can we push this lease term as high as possible, and 30 is where we landed. And part of that discussion was, well, maybe in 30 years, school capacity issues will change, and this will revert back. And so I guess my question is, has some of that thinking adjusted in a way? Because, yeah, you know, we're talking about this 30-year plus, because when you think of, you know, some of the investments you mentioned with the higher preferred option, so not just the AC piece, but things like the removal of the lockers and the carpeted areas, like how are we reconciling that there's still this very open possibility that the school board may not want to extend that lease and may want to reclaim it for school capacity?
You know, a lot of what we're doing is not really terribly unreversible or not usable for future use, right? So, you know, if it were to revert to a school, it would be an air-conditioned school, which, you know, is not a terrible thing, especially given the fact that, you know, May is a lot warmer than it used to be when we were kids, and September's a lot warmer than it used to be kids. So, you know, the investment in the air conditioning system wouldn't be a bad investment. Lockers, the schools that we're doing now, we're not putting lockers in schools. children bring their backpacks with them and they carry them around throughout the day. And so we're doing a $100 million elementary school right now, and there are no lockers in that facility. So, some of these things, yes, we're changing it from what it was as a school, 20 years ago, but it won't necessarily position it as being unsuitable for use as a school in the future. The walls that we're building them in a way that, if someone had to come in and take them down, they could be removed and the classrooms could be restored to, where we're taking a classroom and breaking it into multiple spaces for offices and adjacent space could be undone, in a reasonably easy way.
And some of the other features, I know in talking with the superintendent, things like the burners in the laboratories are not really being used anymore. They acknowledge the same with the lockers. Those really do not get used. We also discovered, I think actually Brian did, in our ADA planning that the locker rooms, it doesn't meet ADA requirements. And so it's really, and nothing like, as both Brian and Greg indicated, can't be reversed. And if we needed to revert back, then that's something we're going to have to deal with at that point in time. But as far as we know, it is a 30-year project, which is, an average lifespan of a project. Other projects we're doing, public safety, we're looking, 50-year build out. So.
Can I ask a follow-up to that?
Please.
That's really helpful. And I guess like a kind of follow-up to that is, which I think will be useful for town meeting in particular, is if we knew with some certainty that we were doing, a 50-year build out of this or had a 50-year term or more, are there things that we've chose not to do and not spend on because, we're not expecting that the same length of time as, say, a brand new public safety building? You know what I'm saying?
I don't think so.
Yeah, we're still trying very hard to sort of lightly touch the building as much as we can. When we say remove the lockers, and then we're trying to minimally infill them and not touch as much as we can. So we're trying very hard. And we did meet with the superintendent to review the plans, and they wanted to make sure we weren't doing anything too substantial. I mean, if this was it, like this was going to be town hall forever,
that's what I mean, yeah.
I probably would be doing a lot more. I would be suggesting, a little bit more robust of a renovation.
Like what types of things, just broadly speaking? Again, I think just as a way to let the community know this is still, still a minimal kind of renovation. Do you know what I mean? To what you said at the very start. Are there certain things, millions of dollars more we would invest in if we were investing in this as a permanent town hall building? Some
of the things we're doing, like within the administrative office areas, we're keeping a lot of the perimeter casework and some of the wardrobe cabinets that were part of the classroom. Partly because we didn't want to touch it, and they're in good repair. But if we were doing a true town hall, we probably wouldn't have those in there. I probably would, be looking to sort of make it more office-like and a little less classroom-like. So, like the meeting spaces that we're creating, they're lab spaces, and so we're leaving the floor as it is. We're just patching it in and keeping the perimeter casework and just removing everything from the middle. If it were to be town hall forever, I don't think there's a need for those casework to remain around the perimeter. I probably would be removing them so you have more capacity for people in those rooms. But that's something that could be done later. But while we're thinking about potentially reverting back to a school, it makes sense to keep those things in place. So that would be an example of some of the things.
But also we are, to your question also, Jason, one other way to look at it is we do have flex space built in so that if we as town offices grow in the next, in that 50-year period, we have that space built in. For town offices, we're pretty basic. We need office space. We acknowledge the need for community space, and I think that there's significant increase in the community meeting spaces in this build out that will be sufficient for a good amount of time looking forward. But I don't know, and the technology, we are adding technology, and I think over years as that evolves, I don't think the build out as we have it now as far as we know, precludes us from
Yeah, I don't
doing
think
anything
technology
different.
lasts more than 30 years.
Yeah.
And we're fitting out a lot more space for technology than we've ever had.
Yes.
Maybe we haven't really ever had space for
We don't have-
technology.
I don't think so, no.
Yep.
Are you, and I know this is not an easy answer, but are you expecting or predicting any supply chain issues, knowing with what's going on now
We haven't been,
nationally?
yeah, we have, it's a good question, because that was a real issue, but we have not been encountering that. We do still see longer lead times for electrical equipment, like the rooftop unit we were speaking about. Anything that has circuit boards or smart technology, they're not building these units and having them in a factory ready to, for us to place an order. Everything is built to an order. And so it takes time to manufacture it and then get it to here. So that's a real problem in a schedule like this project, where it's really just a fit out, which is fairly quick. So what I built into the schedule is sort of an early procurement phase. Before we even start construction, we basically have to get, there's what we call submittals and shop drawings approved, release all the orders to the factories, and then once we see what those lead times are, we then time our construction so that everything's showing up when we need it. We don't want to get out there too early, because then we're just wasting time, supervision on site. So that it's a challenge, and on a project like this, we even though it's a short time, I have to build that early phase of procurement in.
Are you experiencing any of those issues with current projects that you're working on?
Supply chain?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
No.
not in terms of the ability to get things, it's just the time that it takes to do things.
Yeah.
That's really where, so as Brian was saying, electrical switchgear, if you're building a brand-new building out of the ground and you're putting in a new electrical service, that can be a year in lead time. Major HVAC equipment, not the type of equipment that we would put in here with the VRF system, but if you were doing, rooftop air handling units, those are, 20 to 35 weeks, so that's a long lead item.
Yeah, we had, because the building code, the 10th edition of the building code changed, and we have to, new construction, you have to insulate basically outboard of the structure. And so that makes everybody using mineral wool on the outside of the buildings. There was a period of time not long ago where it was really hard to come by, because when the code change happened, the material suppliers hadn't adjusted for it. And so they were rationing out the materials, but that's not a concern here. Roofing materials, roof insulation was hard to come by, but we're not seeing that anymore. 3-week lead time, it was a period of time, it was 30-plus weeks. So, yeah, we're not experiencing that anymore.
I just have one more question. You're referring to the air conditioning as a VRF system briefly? In plain English, is it possible
Sure.
to describe what that is?
Variable frequency refrigerant.
Variable refrigerant flow.
No, flow, there we go. Okay, thanks.
What Brian was basically saying is that the refrigerant is, when it cools something, it absorbs the heat out of the room, that refrigerant gets warm. And so that warm refrigerant can be directed to places where people are cold and become a heating medium for certain spaces. So that's what, as Brian was saying, what's nice about a variable refrigerant flow system is that it's sort of like a heat pump system. It can both heat and cool simultaneously. It's not like a chiller, which only makes cold water and only cools spaces. It can do both at the same time. So it's actually, it's nice for a building like this, because some people are always cold, even in June and July, and they can be getting heat at the same time that the person next to them is getting cooling.
So would that be used to provide heat then in the winter, or is that the...
Yes.
Well, it could, but we don't, we have to be careful because of the code implications. So the building is currently heated, and we want to keep that system, because if we do replace the system, the building code then requires ERV system, and so then we'd have to put in energy recovery. You'd have to duct the whole building, and all your exhausts would have to be capture that energy and redirect the air. So we're trying to be careful not not to trigger certain things in the project that would cause us to spend more money. So yes, the system is capable of heating, but we wouldn't want to use it in that manner because it would create more work than we want this project to be for you. We're really working hard to try and keep this just what we need to do for the town. Yeah.
So the heating system that's there now, were you able to project the lifespan of that going forward, or?
There was a property condition assessment that was done before our involvement, so we didn't analyze that system. That's something that the school department is, they're, because of the lease arrangement, that's something that they are taking care of and managing. Yep.
Great, thank you.
So one other question. So when we did the initial walkthrough at the school, there was talk about encapsulating the lockers. I find it interesting that nowadays they don't even have lockers anymore.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm getting old. But instead of taking them all out, and I'm just looking for, is it an insignificant cost? Is it something savings that we can do? As opposed to leaving them there, putting a facade there where you never knew, or you'll never know what's behind that wall.
Yep. The log, so yes, there is a possibility, and that's what we're going to look at the next round. So for purposes of schematic design, estimating, we assume removal and infill. But we're looking at an option where we can cover. So we're trying to, again, and any opportunity we have to do it better, more efficiently, and save money, we will.
Perfect.
So 100%.
That's the answer I was looking for. Thanks.
Right answer, right.
Yes.
Any other questions, comments? Great, well, thank you so much.
Yes, no, thanks for having me.
Thanks for taking the time, we appreciate it.
See you on Monday.
Okay, next is approval. Lori West, Town Clerk, is requesting a reappointment of Catherine Mahoney to the Board of Registrars. Ms. Mahoney's term expires in 2026. She's requested reappointment, and Ms. West, Town Clerk, is recommending her reappointment to a 3-year term until 2029.
Motion to reappoint?
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved by Gray, seconded by McCarthy. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passes. Thank you. Next is, let me find it here.
Porch Fest.
Okay. Pamela Kaufman, a one-day entertainment license for Hull Porch Fest, scheduled for September 19th with a rain date of September 20th, 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Okay, and it's already been, they are coordinating with the police
Yep.
and fire.
Yep.
Would you like to add anything else or speak to
Very
it?
excited to be here to tell you about that date, and we're going to hopefully stay within the same footprint we had last year. We're going to do pretty much the same thing that happened last year, which was a lot of fun.
Great.
And we had over 40 bands. We had about 13 houses, and I'm excited about the event. And a lot of people have helped get us to this place right now, and we're looking forward to seeing a lot of people, hearing a lot of music, and having a lot of fun. People who play are from like 12 years old up to 80. And it's really just a fun event. And that's the span of people who also come. So very excited.
It's a great event.
It really
We look
is.
forward to it every year, so
Yeah.
thank you for all the work it takes to organize
Sure.
that as well.
So do you need anything more from us other than the approval?
Right.
I know last year, after the fact, you guys were going to have like a beer truck or what have you, or a
Yeah.
brewery. So is that now included in your,
Yeah.
in the package that you're talking to police and fire about?
The same thing as last year.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Great,
I do
thank
have
you.
one question.
Please.
There's a little bit of difficulty in one spot on Nantasket Avenue at the hardware store.
Oh, yes. And that was, I think, because of the young people who from the high school
Yeah.
who had a large crowd. So chances are we're going to put someone like that in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I think I went to the hardware store that day and I was like, whoa, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
They were
There was
in the
no-
street watching it, which
It
was great,
beautiful.
but
It was nice to see so many people. It was right. And I remember running down the sidewalk to try to get people to get off the street.
How
Yeah.
did that go?
It went okay.
you move them and then they move back.
No, that's true.
happened,
That's
yeah.
true. That's true. But the police were great, and the crowd was great.
Well, people look forward to it every year, and it's really a lot of fun. Again, entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve a one-day entertainment license for Whole Porch Fest for September 19th, rain date September 20th, 1 to 6 p.m.
Is there a second?
Well, could you add pending any coordination with the police, DPW, whatever?
Yeah, I'll revise my motion to pending approvals from police, DPW, and town staff, fire and town staff.
I'll second that.
Okay, moved by McCann, seconded by Gray. Any further discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you so much. We look forward to
Good night,
it.
ladies.
Good luck.
Next on the agenda is the annual town meeting warrant review, looking at Articles 35 to 44, which are the citizens' petitions.
Town council know that we are ready.
Oh, okay.
Bring them up.
Hi, Brian, can you hear us okay?
I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me?
We're going to turn you up a little bit.
Check my own microphone. Is this any better?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody can hear? Great.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Evening, everyone.
Hello.
Are you just going to start going through it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I ask Brian a question?
Please, go ahead.
Hi, Brian. I just wanted to get your take. Hi, I just wanted to get your take on other towns that you work with. Like, how common is it for select boards to vote to endorse or support different warrant articles, both citizen and otherwise? Like, what do you see?
I think it varies a little bit. There are towns that certainly do it, depending on the nature of the citizens petition, of course. If it's contrary to, a board policy or an initiative that you've been working on and that seeks to undermine that, well, then the board may want to say something. So I think it depends on the situation mainly, but there's nothing, inherently, wrong with doing so. It's more of a policy question than anything else. But, you know, I do certainly see it. Sometimes individual board members will speak, you know, from their respective positions. And in other cases, you know, I've even seen, you know, town managers speak to articles. So I think it just varies based on sort of the culture and sort of precedent of the town.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. So I'm going to just call out the petition, the article, if somebody would like to speak to it or take a position. If nobody does, we'll move on to the next one. Article 35, citizens petition, would amend town bylaws with powers and duties for the Capital Improvement Planning Committee. Is there anybody that would like to discuss?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would. So I guess my point with all these articles coming forward was more to educate, not just us, but the citizens out there that watch our meetings. You know, as I go over this, I can see where it stands in a lot of people's hands. But Brian, is there any way you can, you know, quickly have an overarching view of this? Not a legal view, but where we stand now with what we passed a few years ago and what effect this would have, or even if the planning board could get this measure.
Yeah, I could take that one.
Yeah.
I think if you want the legal opinion, Brian, weigh in. You know, what I would point out is that the town did adopt Capital Improvement Planning Committee and process. It really does, as I read it, this citizens petition looks to shift a lot of the capital planning responsibilities to the planning board. It is not the planning board's role. However, the planning board does have a seat on the current Capital Improvement Planning Committee. The committee itself is advisory to the town on capital projects. It's currently a very inclusive process. It includes department heads, the planning board, the advisory board representation for citizens, the select board. So it is quite an inclusive process that we are continuing to refine. And then the capital projects are further vetted by the advisory board and then approved ultimately by town meeting.
The way I read this and understood it is that the proposal was more about, and in hearing from the petitioner, about the planning board proposing the projects, right? So it says like, the Capital Improvement Planning Committee will review only anticipated capital projects which have been in public hearings formally endorsed by the select board and recommended by the planning board. I guess but it still keeps all of the other parties, but I couldn't find another town that has something like this. I don't know that it's necessarily, I don't know about the legality of it or anything like that, but I couldn't find another town that had this type of bylaw as it relates to their capital planning process. So that was a gap for me. I don't know that I see the need to make a recommendation on it in either way, though.
Mm-hmm. And I think, just to add on that a little bit, Jason, it's, you know, it further says to align with the master plan and long-term land use goals supported by the citizens of town. I'm not sure what the long-term land use goals are, but the master plan is something that would be considered by both the advisory board, you know, myself making recommendations on capital projects, town departments as well, and taken into consideration by the capital planning committee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems by my reading that it would limit the capital planning, the work of the Capital Improvement Planning Committee to only review projects that are already endorsed rather than being able to propose projects or move forward on planning on projects. So I think that what it does is it kind of limits the role of the Capital Improvement Planning Committee as it's already been established. So,
Yeah, no. But when you read the advisory board's reaction, I mean, I think it answers my concerns. It's unfavorable action.
right.
All right, yeah, I have nothing more on that. I just kind of wanted a little more of an understanding of it.
Anything else on this article? We'll move forward to Article 36. which is the annual budget for town boards, committees, commissions, and councils. So, according to the, so what this is asking is each committee and board would get $1,500 per year for administrative costs and $3,000 per year for professional services, which include hiring specialists to do research for the boards, people to design presentations for the boards, etc. According to the work that the advisory board did, it's an $85,000 a year budget item. As I understand now, committees could request some support from the town if they needed it for a specific project or to move something along. But this would give every committee or board $4,500 a year.
If you'd like, I could speak to this from the town's perspective, or operationals at least. As the advisory board notes, that could be upwards of $85,000 or greater. For me, that's a position, maybe a position and a half within town. Many of the boards and committees already have staff assisting them. So the select board has manager, assistant town manager. The planning board has the town planner. Conservation Commission has conservation. So a number of the boards already have staff assigned to them. And some of those boards, select board, advisory board, the planning board, have a budget associated, have a budget to assist them in their roles. Other committees are really board-established committees, and a lot of the activity would have to go through the board, select board anyway. And I think the biggest piece is just, who decide, and this doesn't really address who or how we decide to whom or to what we're allocating those funds for. I think somewhere in there mentioned, unless I'm confusing articles, like office supplies, we typically allow use of the copier if there's a program that a committee is doing or the board.
It's $1,500 per year on office supplies and administrative support services, which the board determines are necessary. Professional resources, and up to $3,000 per fiscal year on professional services, which the designated board determines are necessary to fulfill its statutory or assigned responsibilities.
If I can add on the $3,000 per year for professional services, that also, I'm not sure what that entails. If we're, boards and committees, by and large, do not have authority to contract with professional services, so that would still need to go through the town. And is it $3,000 just to acquire? It's not really well-defined.
And it says here, if I'm reading it here, if the town manager does not elect to provide the requested support internally, the designated board may proceed to procure the supplies or services using its allocated funds. So it's essentially allowing unelected boards to expend town money, to expend taxpayer funds.
Yeah.
That would also run contrary to the charter, where the town manager is the chief procurement officer, and I don't know if that may raise legal questions also. I don't know if Brian wants to weigh in on that, but I think we answered.
Yeah, and when I look at the boards that are listed, they've all been functioning fine without this, so to incur more costs for no reason makes no sense.
I mean, it does say, all the expenditures must comply with Massachusetts procurement law and town purchasing policies, but even from a policy perspective, to just say you can spend the money, I mean, as a committee chair, if it's been appropriated to you, even if, I don't think that makes any sense whatsoever. I don't even know how that would be ripe for causing all kinds of concerns and issues and funding concerns and potential fraud. It's, to just, because it's all volunteer, we're all on all these committees, it's volunteers, you get a Staples printing receipt and, and I think it's too, I understand the intention, but I guess there's also, I've seen people, I don't want to necessarily provoke this, but I've seen people do budget holds, right, for this reason, because they think they see something where there's a need, and that's how you start the conversation, as opposed to, just saying there's a blanket need. To your point, so many of them already have their needs met. Some don't, but, what are those needs? Why not start by creating that discussion through budget holds is my kind of thinking.
We don't have any authority over the List Hull Housing Authority. They are a separate entity. The school committee operates under the school's budget. So I think there are a number of flaws with it.
I don't see the need for me to vote on this, per se. I think it's fine to have the discussion at town meeting, but, that would be my opinion, is not to vote in favor or against.
Yeah, I'm just curious if, and I don't know the answer to this, if the petitioner polled these committees and determined that there is a need. We don't know if that need is there or that desire is there.
I'm on Hull Park and Recreation. I've heard nothing, but we have a budget per year already, so.
Or there's somebody who wants to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Emily Vermelia, 17 East Street. I would just like to say that could have been prevented. You could have encouraged the people that wrote these petitions to come tonight, and you did not. So they weren't able to come and answer questions.
It was, all of these petitions were listed on the agenda.
They were
very
not
specific.
encouraged to come.
That's a choice that people can make on their own. So I understand your concern, but it's listed on the agenda, and if folks were interested, they could have come. And that would have meant inviting representatives of all of the committees listed here.
You're going over the citizens' petitions, are you not?
Yes.
The citizens' petitions, the citizens, there's
Yes.
5 or 6?
10 of them, yes.
10? Yeah, then invite the 10.
Well, but I'm saying this, what I'm saying is, and I understand your concern, but again, it was listed on the agenda, and this would impact 18 committees and boards, so we would have to have invited all 18 of those representatives of those committees to see if they were in support or if they had any concerns about this.
Can I ask a question?
We're not voting on it now, we're really just discussing it unless someone chooses to vote on it.
I just want to ask, relevant to that, did we get any, I didn't get any messages from anybody providing feedback on, that, like anything from anybody saying, I can't come tonight, here's my feedback, here are my thoughts,
No.
to share that.
No.
Like I didn't get,
No.
'cause I know sometimes we get things sent to different people. So.
And, Mr. Chairman, we did announce this last week. Like, I brought it up towards the end of the meeting, and our select board member that's not here agreed, and it was on the agenda, so anyone that pays attention to the meetings or the agendas can clearly see it's ready for discussion. So we do our best. We can't make everyone come.
Would anybody desirous of taking a position on this, or? No? Okay. Let's move to Article 37, replacement of the stairs at Western Avenue. The citizens petition articles, to see if the town will raise and appropriate, borrow, and/or transfer from available funds a sum of money to pay for the replacement of a section of the Western Avenue right-of-way stairs that runs from the top of the seawall to the water. This is a set of 14 steps and a landing destroyed in 2022. Okay, any discussion on that?
I would, 14 steps where there's probably 200 that are in horrible condition, makes no sense to repair it, and are we sure it's even on our land?
Well, that's a question that comes up, is the actual ownership of the steps, and that's being looked into. And I know I've looked at the stairs also, and the entire length of stairs are in need of repair. I'm not sure what doing 14 steps would do with that. And the advisory board is recommending no action on this. Any other questions, concerns, thoughts? No. Okay. Article 38, permanent traffic direction changes in the NBOD.
Mr. Chairman, maybe ahead of discussion, this is one that council may be able to weigh in on in terms of your role as a traffic commissioner and Article 38.
I'm sorry, I'm just having a little bit of a hard time hearing. Was that a question for me?
Right, yeah, I'm sorry. I said this is Article 38, maybe one that council wants to weigh in relative to the board's role as traffic commissioners and what this article seeks to do.
Yeah, I'm happy to repeat a comment that I've made before, I think at the advisory board and also at a recent meeting with the town moderator and some others. And that's that I have some concerns about the legality of this petition. There are a number of statutes, mostly the ones you find in Chapter 90, that all relate to this board's role as the traffic commission. And those define certain, parameters for the board's authority and jurisdiction as traffic commissioners. And I have a concern that this intrudes into that and would conflict with those statutes. For what it's worth, I have reached out to the Attorney General's office. They wrote me back and offered to take a look on an informal basis and just provide a little feedback. In terms of form, it's proper, and the town meeting can certainly vote on it. And it'll be up to the Attorney General's office ultimately, because it's a bylaw, to perform that legal review and either approve it or disapprove it. They may or may not provide some informal feedback, but I certainly have some doubts about this.
If I'm correct in my reading, essentially what it does is usurp the authority of the select board as traffic commissioners to make determinations about roadways?
So that's right, and to put it another way, that determination is not just a determination for the traffic commissioners, it's an executive function. And so it's trying to convert an executive function into a legislative function and make any direction of travel subject to a legislative vote at town meeting, which is not the statutory structure that we have now under Chapter 90. So that's why I have some doubts about this passing at the Attorney General's office, but that's a decision that the AG is going to have to make and not me.
Any further thoughts, discussion on 38?
Well, I guess I kind of forgot about it. Are these advisory type of votes? Like if any of these we've talked about so far, 35, 36, 37, and now 38, is it up to the select board to send them forward?
They're cast as bylaws, and so under Chapter 40, Section 32, we have an obligation to submit them to the Attorney General if they pass.
Mm-hmm.
And so to that extent, the Attorney General hypothetically could approve them, and they become bylaws of the town, and, subject to whatever comments or cautions the AG's office may provide. Obviously, if they don't pass, then they're no substance.
Mm-hmm.
But because they're couched as bylaws, I wouldn't say they're advisory, but they're not effective until the AG approves them. And so, they kind of are what they are, and the AG's office is going to have to take a look and perform their task and determine, whether or not it conflicts with existing state law, which is their primary function. If there's a sharp conflict, or if it prohibits or interferes with the board's ability to otherwise comply with the statute, then they might disapprove.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right. I'm good.
Any other questions? Moving on, Article 39, recording and public access to open meetings. This says to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and transfer from free cash or other available funds a sum of money to provide for the recording of all open meetings of town boards, commissions, and committees, and to ensure recordings are publicly available. Said funds to be used for equipment, software, storage, technical services, training or staffing necessary to implementing this article or take any other action relative thereto. There's no, in this one, my main concern about this one is there is no estimate of the cost of such equipment. And we just heard from our project managers that the new facility, when Town Hall moves, there'll be more technology available for meetings there. So we also have, about more than 15 different committees, and many of them meet at the same time in different locations. So this doesn't even suggest how much equipment would be necessary to do that. So in addition to the cost, we don't even know what the amount of equipment and type of equipment would be available. So it's an undefined cost that could be substantial if it's enough for all the committees to be recorded and made available in this way. The advisory board is recommending unfavorable action, pretty much the same, that would result in additional costs to taxpayers, including all expenses associated with procuring new technological platforms to record and access hybrid public meetings, as well as associated training and overtime staffing for public meetings outside regular office hours. So there. I've also heard from other towns and speaking to them about hybrid public meetings. There have been some disruptions from people jumping into a meeting and disrupting meetings, and some other, I'll be polite and say, untoward things coming up in public meetings that are available. So I think it can, not even based just on the additional costs, it could create problems by who has access to these meetings while they're in process. Any further questions, discussions?
I mean, this is tricky for me because, I mean, I disagree about hybrid meetings. I think that they could be beneficial, but, you know, we've changed so much in terms of the state, in terms of what and how public meetings can be conducted, the COVID emergency, all remote, the extension of the hybrid possibility, you know, really trying, I think, to make meetings as public as possible, constantly revising our own policies, policies for committees, the fact that we're in an old facility, we're moving to a new facility. So I get the intention behind this, because I think, you know, I agree with a lot behind it, but yeah, it's not kind of specific enough, and we're already moving in this direction. It just feels premature, but I don't know that I need us to take a position on it per se.
And I agree with you. I agree with the intent behind it, but committees can now do all Zoom meetings where anybody in the public can join.
Right.
So we're already partway there, and we'll have more technology in the new facility.
Yep.
So I agree with you. I don't think we need to take a position on it.
Okay.
Next is Article 40, petition to the General Court for special legislation to amend the charter to remove the town manager from the operation of the municipal light plant and restore the statutory authority to the light board. This is essentially a redo of Article 37 from last year, as I understand it, with different wording. Article 37 is currently at the state legislature, and the legislature has not moved one way or the other on it. It's kind of premature to do something like this while it's already at the legislature.
I thought it was sent to a study order.
At the yeah, but it hasn't been approved or
it hasn't come
denied.
out of that.
It hasn't come out, right? So it's still in process at the legislature. So, open this up for discussion.
Well, the proponent is here. I'd like to hear her speak, maybe educate us a little bit.
Sure. I'm glad to speak. And I'm glad to respond to any of your questions. I'm happy to do that. I was just thinking about the simultaneous meetings, okay? There's so many simultaneous meetings in this town. And last night was a good example. There was a light board meeting, and there was also an really important HRA meeting. And the town manager had to go back and forth because she has 2 jobs, in my judgment. And so that's just a sample, because I really believe that the loss of focus goes way back in time. So Dan Ciccarello asked Phil Lemnios in 2011 to resolve this, what he considered to be too many things going on. There was no way for Phil to be full-time town manager, which is a brutal job, and full-time light plant manager. And so in my judgment, I came to Hull with Phil was in charge, and there were 2 turbines, and there was money set aside for capital improvements, whether it required getting rid of the turbines or replacing them or whatever, or replacing them with a battery or whatever. But all the capital plans seem to have fallen by the wayside, and Hull seems now to be lagging way behind, not just in rates, but in tech. And I don't think it's malicious. I don't think anybody's a bad person. I just think there's a lack of focus. If you have to be at the HRA meeting and the light board meeting at the same time, you can't focus. You got to prepare for both of those meetings. It's just brutal demands, okay? And so the plan is to have the light board controlling the light plant technically, and so we can get some technical advantages, return to our leadership position that we were in when I moved to Hull, and because we're way behind in tech at this point, and we have, for example, the state of Virginia just passed a law, totally bipartisan, I think it was unanimous in the House of whatever they call their legislature, demanding that utilities produce grid utilization data, okay? Now, utilities were like, oh no, it says what's working and what's not in your wires and your transformers and your generators and whatever. And there has been developed in the last 5 years some amazing software which can say, there's your bottleneck, this is working, this isn't working. So much has happened that we really need to catch up. And I don't think that one person can do these 2 full-time jobs. And it'd be much better to have a technically specialized person as light plant manager. And as I say, I started this with Phil. I had a number of discussions with Phil about the town. And one of the things that Phil said to me was, he was a jokester, okay? He was messing with me a little bit, but he said, you know, those turbines, that's just a marketing brand for the town. It's a logo for the town. That's all they are, is what Phil said to me. And as I say, I know he was just messing with me, but in fact, they were allowed to disintegrate, and the wiring is just sitting there unused. And I think, as I say, it's not malicious. It's just we got so much time. Are we at the HRA meeting? Are we at the light plant meeting? So there's 2 full-time jobs, I guess, is what I'm worried about.
Mr. Chairman, I want to go back to something you said, and I want to try to understand more of how you're saying it. So the town of Hull elects 5 members to that light board. Mm-hmm. They are to advise, at least in the current structure, the town manager. So when you talk about ideas and ways to move forward, do better for our ratepayers, whatever it may be, that's their current job.
But they have no authority whatsoever over the town manager.
Hold on for 1 second. It's my turn to speak. It's to advise. So like you have great open meetings, you come up with great ideas, and then you have a conversation with the town manager to see if it can work. Like that's the existing structure. So like where you keep going back to the town manager not having enough time to bounce back and forth, the 5 people on that board are the ones that create these ideas to make that light plant function more and advise. So you're telling me for all these years, no one's been advising? No one's been coming up with ideas. No one's been collaborating with the town manager, because when windmills went up, that was collaboration with the town manager, other things you've done along the line. So I struggle with your approach on that, saying there's no time for it, because the town manager is the financial part of it. And we as a town, as town members, when we vote you guys in, rely on you, the board, to come up with the ideas, structure, and be the advisory to the town manager. That's the function. So the way you're presenting it is like all that's supposed to be on the town manager, when the reality of it is it's the board.
No, it's on the light plant manager.
No,
This is what I'm saying.
what I'm saying is it's not. They are 5 elected board members to have meetings, to go over things, set rates, talk about stuff, see how they could do better with the lines coming from the other towns, like those type of things, and advise. Like, that's the current structure. So I'm sure whoever the town manager that would be in that room talking to you guys, well, not you individually, but the other people, if the ideas are great, they roll forward.
Well, and not if it's not a priority for the town manager. What incentive does the light plant manager have under these circumstances to focus on the priorities of the light plant board?
Can I switch it up for you?
Sure.
Every day, we have a DPW department, we have a Board of Health, we have all these other departments that she manages. She is not in every single one of their meetings. They gather facts, they report back, and decisions are made. You know, when there's a light plant meeting, the town manager is usually there.
So there's supposed to be a very big wall between the money of the light plant and the money of the town. And actually, the vote last meeting pushed that through, you know, made that wall a little stronger.
Well,
but that's not true of all those other departments. Those other departments have money that's totally under the control of the town manager.
if I could respond to that too, we'll call it the procedure you did last night as a meeting, you're an advisory board. The light department is an advisory board to the town manager. The resolution is null and void. They don't make those decisions. They're an advisory board. So like last night, for whatever reason you had to have that meeting to try to push that resolution through, it's not actionable. It cannot go through because their role as commissioners is advisory.
But the money is supposed to be separate.
The money is separate.
It's a separate budget.
But if you're making plans for the future expenditure of light plant money, it's not separate.
I don't understand that.
The role of we'll get you in a minute, sir. The role of the light board is to advise on policy and set rates. That's the primary role of the light board, and that's statutory. So the issues that you're talking about, technology, all of that, the light board should be investigating that and recommending on policy to the town manager. So it's not the town manager's job to come up with new technology and that. It's up to the light board to investigate that and then advise on that. As far as the budgets are completely separate. They're proposed separate. It's not part of the town budget. It's a separate budget that the town manager presents to the select board and is not mixed in with town funds.
40 light plants around the state. 37 of the 40 have a technically specialized light plant manager, separate from their town manager. 6 or 8 of those towns are significantly smaller in their number of meters than Hull, and they have separate light plant managers from town managers. And the technical advantages of their position, or their expertise, is much better source for prioritization of the light board's future capital plans. I don't know that there are future capital plans other than the joint facility for coming from the town manager. I don't know. I don't see any. But I'm just thinking that, why is it that 37 out of 40 of the light plants in Massachusetts function this way, okay?
Greg?
Well, I'll come back to it.
Okay, Jake, you had your hand up?
Greg, I want to understand more on why you said that the light board is advisory. It's not. I'm trying to understand that legitimately. I'm confused by that statement.
It is facts. Those are the facts.
Okay.
If you...
Brian Winter was here with Nick Scoville before, or not with him, sorry, different meetings, but what I'm pointing to is it's not. We legally are the only authority that can set the price of electricity, and the charter actually says, I have it up once.
You set the rates.
In accordance with the provisions of Chapter 164 of the general laws. That language is in the charter for a reason. Where the charter and Chapter 164 are in tension, Chapter 164 controls. Nick Scoville presented to us on August 4th last year. He explained that. We have a whole bunch of things we legally have to do. We have a bunch of things we can't do. And then we have a few very tight-knit things that are confusing and conflicting because the charter's a mess. He said that. We should clean it up. Let's clean it up.
The select board moved the 37 to the legislature. They voted, I think it was in September. To prove the select board voted to send it on to the legislature. And for some reason, you guys are reversing this year? Is that the plan?
To be clear, I was a no vote. I did not vote yes to push it through.
We have a majority rules.
37 is at the legislature now. We are not reversing it. Once it goes to the legislature, we don't have a role in it.
But you approved it to go to the legislature.
Yes. So what are you asking?
Well, can I...
Just 1 second.
Yeah.
You didn't approve. I'm totally with you. He didn't approve.
Okay,
But
the board moved it to the legislature, and now you're saying the board is taking that back?
Yes, because the legislature flushed 37 into study. We can go over how many bills in
the board. I'm sorry, but we need to talk factually. Once we sent it to the legislature, we had nothing to do with it. It's up to the legislature.
Right.
We did not ask the legislature to put it to study. We did not pull it back. So what you're suggesting is completely erroneous. We have no power over the legislature.
No, but
if the legislature,
there's no action.
That has nothing to do with the select board. I don't understand what you're...
Well, if you write a letter to Joan and say we don't want this.
But we did not do that.
You didn't?
Where are you getting this information from?
You would have to...
I think if you... Just 1 second. I think if we're going to have this discussion, it should be factual. And making charges like that in public are erroneous.
I should.
You should check your facts before you do that. We agreed in September, we voted, I think the vote was 4-1, to send it to the legislature. There's a process in the legislature. I personally don't understand why this article is even being introduced if it's already at the legislature. It's only going to go back to the legislature, and now they'll have 2 different articles for the same purpose to study and address. If the legislature sends it to study, that's their choice. There's, 300-400 people? I don't even know. There's a lot of people there. It has nothing to do with what we tell them to do, because we can't tell them to do anything, nor can we withdraw anything.
Mr. Chairman, just 1 second.
Mr. Winter, can you tell me, is 40 actionable? Did we fix the legal issues that you very carefully identified a year ago, or last summer, in 37?
Mr. Chairman, do you want me to respond to that?
If you'd like, if it's appropriate.
Sure. It's in proper form for a home rule amendment petition proposing a special act amendment to a charter. That's all I can say.
So I want to go back to clarify what I was saying. Back in September, I think you said it was.
September.
The board voted to send it through. I don't think there was a vote if they were in favor of it. They were just voting to send it through. Like, they weren't on the side of yes or no. They were just voting it to sending it through to the state to see what happened. I just want to be clear on that. Like, I don't think select board members changed their mind on where they stood. They voted to send it through.
And we sent it through without a recommendation, just to be clear.
Can I speak for myself on that a little
Absolutely,
bit?
yeah.
Because I wouldn't say that's exactly how my intention of moving Article 37 forward. I think we talked about it a lot. We got guidance about the actionability. There was some uncertainty, lack of clarity. After the fact, there was, looking for the endorsement from the Light Board itself because it was a citizen petition, but a citizen petition by a Light Board commissioner. So I was figuring all that kind of stuff out, but once it was figured out, I was trying to respond to, the suggestion. Well, I call it a suggestion, but it's more than a suggestion when a legislative kind of action or town meeting makes a decision. I don't mean to demean it by calling it a suggestion, but the request, to move it forward, I wanted to honor that from town meeting, was my perspective. That's all. I don't want to, for me, and I'll just add here, like, I don't want to give a position on this here tonight. I don't. We could put it to town meeting and see what.
And our role here tonight is not to argue, but to stay with the facts so that people that are watching and that the board and everybody can understand what the issues are. But I do, again, want to caution both sides, the select board and the petitioner, to stay with the facts, though, and not present things that are inaccurate or not correct. Mr. Burns?
Thank you, Chairman Ossoff. I want to bring this back to the focus of the issue was essentially the light plant manager and town manager positions. That nearly, as Leslie pointed out, nearly 90% of the municipal light plants have a dedicated light plant manager. It works as a light plant manager 100%. His focus is the ratepayers. He's a trained professional, years of experience, usually 10, maybe 15 years of experience in electrical utility management. He has certifications, he keeps up with the industry. He's the individual that looks at the cutting edge, what's out there. He's the individual that suggests to the Light Board. By the way, the Light Board is a volunteer board. They don't necessarily have, Mr. Gray, they don't necessarily have the expertise that a experienced light plant manager would have, whether it comes to solar or battery storage or heat pumps. So this is what we would look to as the light plant manager guiding the Light Board. Now, the Light Board can make suggestions on different issues, but we look at that professional. What we have in this town is is the town manager who also happens to have the designation of light plant manager. Irregardless of the qualifications, that person probably will never come close to what a professional person that's been trained in industrial, electrical, distribution, and management. Only because that person, as a town manager, doesn't need that training at all. But you, as a select board, put that person into this highly technical position, which I think is, you're looking at that person basically as an expert. They're not. This is, to me, one of the fundamental reasons that the light plant manager needs to be a professional in electrical distribution, have knowledge, experience, and credentials.
All right. Can I ask a question, Mr. Chairman? So currently the Hull Light Plant does work with professionals, correct? Professional organizations out there in the municipal light world, like MWIC or whatever. There's multiple people you work with, correct? Yes. So let me go back to, again, your thought process that you just said. So our current manager and assistant down the light department are the guys that are in charge right now.
Are you talking operations?
Day-to-day operations. We have two gentlemen in positions that run the day-to-day. When you talk about light plant manager with all that expertise, is that someone above and beyond the two that are currently there?
Yes.
So when you say that, this is the same concern I had for the last 2 years. That is a $250,000 expenditure minimum to bring that person in when our current light board has access to professionals already.
That
Like,
number's not correct, 250, it's not
When
correct.
you include salary,
We have
insurance,
people.
all the insurances that go with it, it's a rough estimate, it's not factual, it's close, because we know what they make.
Before 40 is implemented, we have 2 technical people at the light plant. After 40 is implemented, we will continue to have 2 technical people at the light plant. That's a plan, okay? If you have to give a raise to one of them to take on more responsibility, then that's a minimal amount. Incidentally, everybody who has fewer than 7,000 meters in the state has salaries below 200. It's just not, it's not even a good estimate. Also, that 200 keeps reminding me of the pilot. It was over 200 a year that the pilot was going off into the select board's budget. So I think it's really important.
Not the select board's budget.
But that's money. But that's money. That's money that's not leaving the light plant this year, okay? That is available if we needed to give one of the guys a raise who's currently working there. I think this whole extra 200 is a red herring.
If I can, I've been listening very carefully, and in response to Mr. Gray's question, Mr. Burns, who's the chair of the light board, agreed that it would be, those 2 positions would be there, and there would be another position above that. That's what was
No,
just
I
said.
didn't agree with that. Currently,
you
we
said.
have a operations manager and assistant operation manager.
And Greg asked if there would be somebody, if you would be require somebody over that. I don't remember his exact words, and you agreed.
I was just responding to what you just said.
So, just a brief history. A previous operation manager, Dick Miller, he's a great operations manager, but he was working on his own. Dick Miller had liver cancer, and unfortunately his time was limited. We, as a light board, decided that as a succession plan, we needed an assistant operations manager. When Mr. Miller did pass away, the person we hired was Panos. Panos became operations manager. We hired an assistant operations manager for Panos. These individuals have sick time, vacation time, professional improvement, conferences. When that person is out of the office, the assistant would take over their duties. In a traditional MLP, you have an operations manager and you would have a plant manager. They would back each other up in those situations. There's no need to have an assistant operations manager because you already have those 2 people. You look at that second person as a succession. If one of those people leave, then we would do the same thing that we did in Dick Miller's case, is that we would hire another person, an assistant person for the succession. There is no need for 3 people. There's need for 2 professional people. One person's out, as I said, for sick, vacation, professional development. Then that second person can take over. That second professional person take over. We would not need that 3rd person. That 200 the 200K that you say, we have adequate funding at our plant. We have a decommissioning fund that is nearly $1.4 million. We have a reserve fund. We have resources that we would look at that it would be marginally more because these would be higher jobs. They wouldn't be assistant. These would be both line jobs. We have a $12 million budget. These amounts that we were talking to are minor. But not only that, you were getting a professional person that would have a 3 and a 5-year plan that could reduce our costs, that could be incentivized to make savings. So but the fundamental fact, 90% of MLPs have a dedicated 24-hour, these guys are on call, to be light plant manager. That's the difference we have right now. We don't have that profession.
If I could just, I'm sorry, so I was listening to what you were saying, and it all sounds like things are running pretty well. You have these...
I didn't say that.
Well, I'm listening to the
mischaracterization of what I said.
The funds that you just listed that are there. If I'm listening to that, it sounds to me that things are going pretty well. But I would like to just
That's
change...
a mischaracterization. I did not say that.
Well, I know you didn't say running pretty well, but what you listed to me sounded good.
Our rates are almost the highest of all the MLPs in the state. Not the highest, but right up at the top. When I moved here, they were way down at the bottom. I'd say that's not good. That's not good.
Well, okay, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Well, earlier, the petitioner says we need someone in that position. You just said we don't. I'm just being clear as to what I heard. She said we need a full-time manager.
Well, it's not appropriate to tell anybody that the current operations manager would have the opportunity of being promoted. No, it's not appropriate to talk about that. So that's why we're talking in these general terms, okay? It's very important that, I want to also point out that whether it's Phil or it's Jen, there isn't time. There's 2 full-time jobs. On all these other light plants, it's 2 full-time jobs. That's brutal.
That is...
It's absolutely brutal. Nobody can be focused.
Let me speak.
2 full-time jobs.
The argument that we just, not argument, the facts that you were rolling out to us just contradicted what you said and what you said. You make it like the acting town manager, whoever that may be, needs to spend more time at that light plant. And then in another... what Tom had just said is the total opposite. If we have 2 people down there, they can do what they need to do, and then you have the financial...
But they're not connected to the mission of the light plant.
I think that we're all in this conversation actually trying to understand each other, but we're kind of all misunderstanding each other right now.
That's right.
Yeah, so I'm going to try to... We're all friends here. We all love this town. Don't forget that. And I don't think there's anyone in this room that disagrees with that.
We're all on board with that, Jake.
All right, awesome. I love Hull. I think we all do too. We want what's best for Hull. And this is really, it's about one thing, which is governance. We have an elected board that does have rate-setting authority. That's its job. Its purpose is to set electricity rates. Greg, why? Why do we need a board to set the price of electricity? Why doesn't just Jen do that?
That's the way the structure was built a long time ago, with municipal light boards.
The legislature contemplated that, and they made it law in 1894. And they tweaked it a little bit here and there, but it's largely been intact since then. And there's only 3 out of 40 munis in the state that deviate from the standard model. The reasons why they have couldn't be more different, but we had an overreaction in 1993. We had a board that was terribly misinformed. They set the price below the price or the cost of doing business. Now, I want to make that really clear. I'm sorry that Pat Cannon's not here because he was around. I was a 5-year-old in 1993. He was there. I don't know, Tom, if you were involved in that.
No, I wasn't. I didn't come till 84.
Okay, sorry, Dan. I know I say Dan was around. Point being, it's illegal in that section of Massachusetts law. Chapter 164 says you cannot set your price of electricity below the cost of doing business. Now, I'm not quoting it verbatim. I'm just telling you what it means as a layperson. That's what it means. So you can't do that. And if you do, shame on you, recall the board. That would have fixed it. We, as a town, for whatever reason, overreacted and created a new structure, but we did it haphazardly, where we've had an expert attorney, Nick Scoble, come to the light board, and I know you've all seen that video, August 4th, 2025, and he explains to us, you have these elements of the charter, but then you have this other insertion, which I'm happy to read to you again, but again, this is minutia, where it talks about where they conflict, Chapter 164 rules. that leaves a light board that's elected. Say all 5 of us were dead and gone, and they come in and we still have the same charter. When something is not in agreement, you create a tension and a friction. And I heard Chad Wolf on Monday night actually said something amazing. It's a very sophisticated argument, and I actually agree with him that there are certain government structures that are designed to have friction built into them. That's a good, and I don't mean like friction like they can't move anything forward or get anything done. That would be useless. I mean checks and balances. That structure is there for a reason. But what we have here, unfortunately, is an elected board with a role actually to supervise the finances. We still have to sign off on the annual financial returns. We still have to take an annual vote on the budget. We do control the finances. SCOBO confirmed that on August 4th. And I see you shaking your head. That's what happened. Point is, we don't have the authority over the person who actually has day-to-day control. And that's unusual. And what happens is there's this toxic friction that occurs where no, things can't get done. And, you know, with Phil, we had Pilot go explosive for 3 years, and he called it rent, and then the attorney told me you can't charge him rent, and then he called it Pilot. And with the current administration, we have a huge dispute on pursuing grants to move the light plant against the unanimous board's consent to West Corner, potentially. And that's what that was, and I disagree. It was a duly noticed meeting. I'll be following up to Jen's email later, I promise, but I think that is what is going on here, is that you have this friction that's exploding because you have an elected board without its authority over the single person that it's actually designed to hire and fire, as well as set rates. That's what's happening.
So I'd just like to respond to something that you brought up, one particular thing about looking into the relocation of the building. You all yesterday passed a resolution that I think was passed 3-2. It's already been sent to the Department of Public Utilities. And as far as I can see, you've acted outside of your legal authority in doing that, and as such is putting the town at risk with its funders. But I just want to read you the legal opinion of our former town council. Responsibilities, and it's talking about town manager and the way things are set up now as light plant manager. Let me just...
1994, I just want to know when it's from.
What's that? This is from 1994.
Okay, there's been a newer legal opinion from SCOBO, August 4th, 2025.
Okay.
We don't want to lose sight of it.
Responsibility and authority would be the ability to expend funds within the department's budget, make contracts relative to the department, hire and terminate employees, and generally do or oversee all matters involved with the operation of the department. But yet, you have a resolution here that you've authorized yourselves to send to 5 state departments and funders disagreeing with what is in the authority of the town manager as light plant manager. So I think that that's problematic. I think the timing of it is also questionable, coming out less than a week before town meeting, 2.5 weeks before the election. That with that legal opinion, you have, as I see it, the board has overstepped its authority and at the same time acting as out of its authority, putting the town at risk with state departments, with our regulators, and with funders. I think it's an unfortunate misstep on the part of the board, and to me speaks to preserving the current structure.
Would you like me to respond to that with citations of the case law that SCOBO presented to us on August 4th? Because I have it ready, or I'll respond to you in writing and we can do this in a joint meeting.
Yeah, you could respond to me in writing on it, and Tom and I have already talked about setting up a joint meeting with the two boards in the near future.
I just want to add, I know Mr. Valancourt keeps referring back to a memo from August 4th from Attorney Scobo, and I would ask Mr. Valancourt to respond or speak to Attorney Scobo's most recent opinion on the matter, which was as of yesterday, I believe, and is very clear and is very direct relative to authority.
I will respond to those in writing. You'll have it. And I look forward to the joint meeting. But I do disagree, and I preserve the right for this board to protect ratepayers.
Protecting ratepayers is one thing, stepping outside of your authority
40
is
is
another.
all about authority. 40 is all about authority. You have the authority to build a garage to protect our truck. You know, that would be so nice.
Is that in Article 40? I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
But if Article 40 had passed, then the garage would have been completed before the truck was delivered, is sort of my imagination. As I'm a citizen, I'm not a light plant board member.
Let me take a step back to that. You have 5 board members that knew about the trucks that were on order. What did the 5 board members do years ago when we ordered the trucks? I think that's like that. This is where I lose your argument. Everything you keep saying refers back to one person's fault. You have an existing board that's supposed to do things to advise. If they're not doing those things to advise, that falls on them.
We're supposed to advise on policies, not operations. You're talking about an operational need that the general manager or the operations manager should have pointed out and said, hey, we need to add this to the budget because we got this thing coming. We won't have a place to put it to keep it out of Salt Spring.
So
let's figure it out.
those
That
managers sit in meetings with the light board. If they had a pressing need back then, I guess that falls on them or the board.
or the lack of focus is part of why these things get missed.
I'm just going to say one final statement because I really don't want to belabor this because we're just going to, you have your opinions, we have our opinions. All of us have different ones.
I think it was an important discussion, but it's...
I have watched for 2 years now the amount of time that 3 of 5 board members have spent in their light department meetings focusing on whether it's 37 or 40 have set themselves back. That's my opinion. I'm not looking for a response. The negativity, the attacks, they're unwarranted. I watched all the meetings that were on cable. As a citizen, not a selectman, I was embarrassed. In all those meetings in the last 2 years, you probably spent an hour and a half, basically, every meeting, belaboring the point, focusing on it, when the focus should have been on the ratepayers, making sure they have electricity, making sure those lines get addressed, or whatever things you can come up with to make sure in 2027, things are ready and we don't lose electricity like you keep talking about. It's disappointing to me as a citizen, not as a select board member.
The meeting,
Let me finish. Let me finish. The one thing I keep asking is, what's the benefit? I cannot get an answer from anybody other than governance. And my next comment is I worry about a board that ends up in a silo away from everybody else after watching how they operate for the last 2 years in their focus. I worry what decisions will be made if they are the board by themselves with no checks and balances.
37 out of 40 light plants.
Okay, I'm going to end this discussion at this point. I'll give the petitioner an opportunity to make a final statement if you'd like.
Okay. 37 out of 40 light boards in the state of Massachusetts have 2 separate, a technical manager of the light plant and and the town has a separate manager. The town manager job is brutally hard. To expect them to also be the light plant manager, I think, is, I don't think you guys are really caring about her as much as you defend, okay? I think that you cheerleading somebody into 2 full-time jobs is not necessarily a good thing, okay? Finally, I think that the board needs access to all the bank statements and all the utilization data and needs to be able to call the shots about whether the light plant manager is performing well or not performing well. They now have absolutely no input into the performance review of the light plant manager. So that's all.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just,
I'd like to move on, but
just one more.
make it brief.
Well, it's going to be a question directed to Jen. Do you have time to perform that job, whether it's you or another town manager, the way it currently sits, to oversee the light board, the light department?
Yes.
That's the plain and simple.
And if I could speak for myself, being a town manager is not a brutally difficult job. It's challenging, yes. And I would just, I guess, since you asked the question, we currently have I am not trained to be a fire chief. I am not trained to be a police chief. I am trained to be an administrative officer. And we have an operations manager and an assistant operations manager that are performing beautifully and have the technical experience and work very cooperatively with me. And so I also just hear this. I just ask that Ms. Taylor not speak for me, would be my one request.
They love you and they're taking good care of you, but I want to just think about capital plans. I'd like to see capital plans.
Yeah, I'd like to say also that any good executive is an excellent administrator, but does not have to be skilled in everything that their organization does. They need to be able to work with the people who have those skills and do the day-to-day. So I'd like to end it on that. Is there anybody that's wanting to take a position on it or not?
Well, I would take a position on it. I am totally against Article 40. Whether that's a vote or whatever it may be.
Any other board members interested in?
I truly believe it's important that the town knows where we stand, because it is a big question. But
Jason, did you?
No, I don't want to make a recommendation on this either way.
Brian?
I made the mistake last year voting for it, not knowing that it's turned into what it is.
Yeah.
What a waste of time this all has been, from the town's aspect and in the light plan as well. And as a town resident, I don't speak as a select board member, it's disheartening. It really is. So I will not be taking any kind of, you know what? The people that go to town meeting, usually, most of them are smart people. There's dummies that go there, right? There's dummies at church, there's dummies at Riddles, all right? But a vast majority of those people are smart enough to listen to two different sides and vote the way they feel. That's all I'll say. I think it's pretty damn simple. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. That's just my opinion. Maybe it's more complex than it is.
it's one more question, but it's to the lawyer.
Okay.
Is he awake? He is.
Hey, Brian.
This article as it stands, Article 40,
Yes.
is it an advisory? Do the selectmen have to send it forward so we have clear understanding at town meeting how this goes? No matter what the vote is at town meeting, whether it's in favor, not in favor, that's not the question. Does this have to be enacted by the select board?
No, it doesn't. The home rule process requires a town meeting vote before it's even eligible to be forwarded to the legislature. That's the gatekeeping mechanism before it's eligible to be filed. The select board's never under an obligation to file it, even if town meeting approves it. But if town meeting doesn't approve it, then it's nothing. It's not advisory to the board, it just doesn't have any legal effect at all.
Thank you. So that would stand for Article 37, which we did vote to move forward. We were not obligated to do so. So it appears there's no consensus on whether or not to take a position, so I think we'll move forward without taking a position on it. Number 41 is legal review for citizen petition articles. This to see if the town will vote to amend the general bylaws of the town of Hull by adding the following provision to ensure legal review of citizens petition articles and to authorize the town clerk to renumber or codify this provision appropriately. Okay, just to say the advisory board has voted unanimously for unfavorable action on this. Let's see, who's the petitioner is here? Would you like to speak to it?
Yeah, I brought this forward. I believe if we learn, or if I see something that can be improved, try to improve it. And I have had a rough time through navigating Article 37, and now you see Article 40, and I don't really want to see this cycle repeat for anyone else ever again. So my thought was this would help to prevent that from happening in the future. I don't think that it would really change a whole lot about anything in town one way or the other, but I do think it would improve the actionability of the article, the citizens' petitions that make it to articles at town meeting. And the point is, let's try to minimize the amount of frustration where town meeting voters ultimately debate and then decide on something, but without knowing whether or not it's actual ahead of time. That's the intent behind it.
Yeah, all the time in the second round of this is a consequence of their legal language from last year.
So the hope is that it passes and there's a mechanism. And there's a few other towns that already do this. None of them do it the same way. Some do it by, the select board took a vote and said, we're going to do this. Others made a bylaw. Others just seem to do it, and there's I couldn't find any reason that, or mechanism that started them from doing it, which I thought was really odd, but it seems like there's a lot of different ways to get this cat skinned. And I'm not sure that mine is the best way, but it's just a way. And so I brought the idea forward. That's it.
No, I've looked into it also, and some towns do it, some towns don't. I don't know if it's a majority of the 350 towns or not, but there are also towns that don't do it. So I don't know, is any discussion or questions for Mr. Valencourt?
No, I understand where he's coming from, but, when you read the last sentence of the advisory board, we think this is an unproductive, ineffective, and inappropriate use of town resources for something that would much better be dealt with by the advocates of the petition. Those aren't my words, those are theirs.
Brian, could I ask you, without putting you in, and if it's not appropriate to answer, that's okay. As town council, what position would this put you in?
I believe the implementation can be a bit of a challenge. As worded, the language of the motion speaks to legal form. It's sometimes hard to distinguish between form and substance, but it is crafted to try to avoid situations where town council is serving more than one master. Citizens petitions are, and the citizens that support them are not my client. My duty of loyalty under the rules of professional responsibility run to this board by and through a majority of its members. And so it creates a little bit of a division in that category, but I don't want to get much farther than that. That's just the reality of it. I think if I say anything more, I'll be talking about policy, and that's certainly not my role. It is in proper legal form, and as was noted earlier, some towns have, variations on the theme, and some towns have nothing. And so really at its heart, it's a policy choice for the town to make.
Great, thank you.
Can I ask you a question? Brian, do you have other towns that you serve as town council where you do this?
In a different form, there's one town that I work in, majority no, but there is one community that I work in where they have a pre-petition process where someone, prior to filing it with their signatures with the town clerk, they can submit a pre-petition, and that enables them to get feedback from boards and committees on a preliminary basis, and that includes town council's review. So I have seen a variation of this, which is not purely legal. It's also to give the different stakeholders a chance to weigh in on something before it's filed. If it affects your capital planning, if it affects your financial planning, it's to bake that all into a pre-petition process. So I have seen that version.
But not as it relates to drafting the warrant article itself or even the motion?
No, I haven't, not personally. I haven't seen that version, and again, I don't want to speak to policy matters. I may have my own opinions, but those are for me, and me alone, I suppose.
Yeah.
And again, the pause that I have with this is that it creates something of a division in my professional responsibilities. Just to give you a hypothetical, the citizens petition may propose to undermine or undo something that this board, my client, fought very hard for over many years and was a policy or initiative that the board championed. Providing aid and abetting support to a citizens petition to make sure that it's proper and functional and successful in terms of the legal form and consistency with statutes and Constitution of Massachusetts, the town's existing bylaw and regulatory structure, et cetera, is in essence actively working to undermine the policy directive of my own client. And so I am concerned about situations where I will have to, or whoever it turns out to be, would have to make those delicate choices and thread that needle. So that's my concern about these bylaws, just generally speaking. But they're not unlawful. They're out there and they've been approved. And so it's really up to the town. And then ultimately it would be up to the people who have to implement the bylaw to find a way to make it make sense, which is a challenge.
I think all this it's really interesting. I'm glad it's kind of raised for discussion. I don't have an intention of providing an opinion on it, but I do think what we're going to see, and it'd be interesting to see what's happening in other towns. I think this is maybe the first real big year. And this is not commenting on the text of individual citizen petitions submitted this year, because I don't know this for sure, but just going forward, with generative AI tools, it really, I think in a positive way, can democratize this process a little bit more, no matter what. I've seen so many initiatives the town has done to educate the citizens on town meeting. It's a good example of what, you've implemented. A great example is what you've implemented with the visual town meeting warrant. But more and more people it's going to be easier for people to submit citizen petitions, because the biggest hurdle is digesting all this information, reading bylaws, and you have tools that make that so much simpler. But it also, it adds just a completely new complication to the process where, you just have a lot more of these. It takes up a lot more time. So, as it relates to a review by a lawyer, that's something. But then also just big picture, what we do at town meeting. Because I think people are like, well, this is a lot of citizen petitions this year. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same or more every year going forward. It's our legislative body, that has been democratized in a lot of ways. And so it's just an interesting thing to start the conversation. I'll be curious what people say at town meeting. But I don't want to make a motion for endorsement or otherwise.
Okay. Any other thoughts on it?
Nope.
No? Okay, we'll move on. Thank you. Number 42, remote public access to town board and committees. This one calls for remote public access to town board and committee meetings to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or appropriate and transfer from free cash or other available funds a sum of money to provide equipment, software, connectivity. So how is this different than the other one?
Yeah, aren't 36 and 42 somewhat the same?
Yeah, I'm trying to see what the difference is. Yeah, it's pretty much asking for the same thing as 36?
I'm sorry, are you referring to 42?
42 is remote public access, and 36 is
when I think that
is going to have it posted on websites, either a recording or the home TV, making sure that it's on the website and public for everybody to see.
And I think 42 explicitly calls for hybrid meetings. So
Which means remotely for in-person or hybrid meetings when permitted by law. The purpose of this article is to, let me go back to 36.
I think 36 was just recorded meetings.
The back end of it.
specific.
Yeah, this is hybrid, but then it says Full compliance shall be required no later than 2 months following the relocation of Town Hall to the Memorial School.
Oh, so this one recognizes about the relocation. Any thoughts, comments on
Well, I
42?
mean, it's missing a lot of the, like, the financial end of it, like, who knows what that may be.
Yep. And we still have the opportunity to have the technology when we move and see how we can make that available. But again, this doesn't give any budget or any costs in any way. Okay, and the advisory board is recommending unfavorable action. Anything else on 42, folks?
No.
43 is repeal of the May 2018 annual town meeting warrant, Article 11. To repeal warrant. Return decision-making authority over these land transactions authorized therein to customary town meeting approval process as provided by law. I'm just going to read, there's not much there. The motion isn't there, it's just the article. So this article seeks, this is from the advisory board, this article seeks to repeal an action taken by 2018 town meeting that granted the select board authority to discontinue roadways within the HRA parcel as well as the adjacent roadway and convey them to HRA or other parties as approved by the select board. The original article was defeated at a special town meeting and was brought forward again at a subsequent annual town meeting because it was important to move forward with a grant proposal the town wanted to submit at the time but did not receive. Remain unaffected. So I'm not understanding what it's asking.
I believe this was relative to the two-way road conversion, but I think the sort of controlling piece in the advisory board's recommendation is that any actions authorized and taken by the original article would remain unaffected, even if this article is passed.
So it would repeal the article, but not any actions taken under the article. Doesn't this also usurp the authority of the select board as traffic commissioners?
Yes.
Yeah. So that falls under the same explanation that we were given for 38.
Right. Any questions, comments, thoughts? No? And 44 is the final one, eminent domain at James Avenue Wharf and James Avenue Beach. So this authorizes the taking of a strip of land at James Avenue that right now the owner of that land is not allowing access across his piece of property, to the beach at James Avenue. So it would be for eminent domain taking of that property.
I mean, I was interested to talk about this one because, but I think, I don't know that I would make an endorsement as a select board member, but it is something I would endorse, I think, as a citizen. So because in my role as the rep for the Waterfront Access Study Committee, this has kind of come up. This is an article that I think is reinforcing an article that was already passed at town meeting in a way, and I think it's a good thing to keep this top of mind. It's a complicated issue, but it's one of great interest to people in the village, and I know there's been additional work done on it, so I think it's a good thing personally to do, but I guess I was thinking about it ahead of time. I probably wouldn't seek an endorsement from the select board. It's kind of, I think it's not necessarily a topic that makes sense, but I have been interested in it and support this based on the Waterfront Access Study Committee work that I've been doing.
The one thing I get, like, I don't want to vote for it either, but I understand where it's at. What I don't understand, though, as we were, reviewing all those waterway access points, especially on the bay side, you own to the low tide, high tide, whatever it may be, and those citizens are allowed to, they can if you're on their land, sitting in a chair, they can say, you need to move. But they can't stop you from passing through. So that's why I don't understand how he can block it. That rule, and I guess that's a question for Brian, like we have free passage on Nantasket Beach. Some of those homeowners own to the water line. What changes on the bay? Like, I don't understand the need for eminent domain taking.
We do need it, right?
That's...
Yeah, it's under Chapter 91. I am not certain, and I don't know, Brian, is that accurate about prohibiting passage?
So, right, but Chapter 91 only applies, and so this is the public trust doctrine for title lands, right? And so it only applies to certain activities, and so it protects the public's right to fish, fowl, and navigate, and things like that, and which allows you to, walk down the beach, below the high tide, I believe it is, and, conduct those fundamental activities, but it doesn't include other things. First of all, it doesn't include activities that are upward of that marker or landward of that marker, and it doesn't include things that aren't fishing, fouling, and navigation. And so it's a limited right. But yes, the public has a certain right to the waters of the Commonwealth. And in this case, the history is a little bit complicated because it was between, as I understand, and I may be completely wrong about this, please someone correct me if I am, between private parties. So it wasn't the town insisting that the public had rights. There were certain members of the public insisting that they had rights, and the private property owner objecting to that assertion. And so this would be sort of a way to establish, in theory, a public right beyond Chapter 91, ownership of a certain amount of property on the James Avenue Beach.
The question I have is that strip of land that the owner is not allowing people to cross to get access to the beach is not beach property. It's land.
It is. It is. So if you can picture the wharf, James Ave Wharf, that the property owner that's trying to prohibit people from crossing his property is the land that essentially abuts the wharf.
Right.
It's a narrow strip of land.
Yeah.
But I think Brian, to Greg's question, so does navigate, is that the same as crossover?
No, not necessarily, because if they're crossing over, land that's above that, if you're in the water, obviously boating, that's one thing. If you're walking across private property that's outside of that zone, that's another thing. And so I thought that was, or I believe that was the section that we were talking about, because it's not the entire beach. It's just the tideland portion of the beach. And so if you see people, fishing out there or something like that, that might be a protected activity, but that doesn't give you the right to trespass over private property necessarily on the upland side of it. And so that's the nature of the dispute as I understand it. If we're talking about other activities, beach umbrellas, kayaks, chairs, whatever it happens to be, and that's not protected by Chapter 91, and if that's on land that's privately owned, pursuant to the owner's deed, then the owner could make an objection to that.
Question that I have that I've been wrestling with is if the homeowners that abut the beach have rights to the property to the low water mark, then if we were to move to take this strip of land through eminent domain, we're taking private land to give people access to private land? Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
No, I kind of understand, and I think there's a quirk in the way that it's drafted because it's a strip. And so it could potentially be, the proverbial strip to nowhere, because it could potentially open up the access for people to then cross into other land. And I don't know the status of that other land. My understanding, just anecdotally, is that, the property owners there own down to the water line. And so that's not currently a public beach. I don't know. I haven't researched it, I haven't done the title. And so taking a strip that's it. It's just taking the strip. So that would only give, if the town were to take it for public purposes, then that would only give the public the right to use that identified strip for public purposes and nothing more than that.
So we could actually hypothetically take that strip, which I think is like 10 feet wide or something like that,
Yeah, it's a little,
and then the property owners could prohibit people from using the beach?
well, when you say beach, let's be specific, because not the water, but the privately owned portion of the beach, potentially, yes.
So I'm just trying to suss this out in my mind. So if we took that strip, 10 feet, 8 feet, 7, whatever it is, and then said, okay, we're going to provide access to the beach, the land there, then one of those homeowners who have that to the low water mark can say, I don't want anybody using that portion of the beach in front of my house.
Right, this article doesn't address what happens next, and this is the conversation I think that came up with the advisory board, which is, how much are we really acquiring here? And now it identifies just this strip, but if we're really talking about making the entire beach public, well, it doesn't speak to that. It just speaks to the strip. And that's why I kind of jokingly refer to it as kind of the strip to nowhere, because I don't know what happens on the other end of that. And so there's a scenario here where we've only moved the goalpost back 10 feet or 8 feet or whatever it turns out to be.
I think my opinion on it, and the reason I support it, is that I forget which town meeting it was, 2017 or 2018, there was an eminent domain action taken. Jim Lamke had prepared a memo. The issue at that time was that there wasn't really, people hadn't figured out where the money was going to come from to pay for the taking. And I think even if this isn't necessarily actionable, I think it's good to keep it at top of mind, because it's been a long-going issue that was already approved at town meeting. And it is, I think to figure this out now, this may or may not be actionable in a legal way in terms of taking, but in terms of keeping it at top of mind. And then, hopefully there'll be once Brian reviews Jim Lamke's memo and looks at it more closely, then we look at maps, we look at exactly what we're talking about. But I think it is something that has been discussed for a long time, and it's not one of those things where it's like, oh, well, too bad, it's just something that's never going to happen. No, something did happen. We just have to take some additional steps to make it move forward, and I think this is a good interim step, if that makes sense.
I guess the question that I'm wrestling with, since this came up, is it would authorize the town to take private land to give people access to private land.
It's not, you have to look at a map. It's not quite
I'm
that
looking
simple.
I'm looking.
No, I mean, you have to look at a map with a plot plan. And, like I'm saying, this may or may not, it probably doesn't do anything to move it forward. But after the fact, once, some additional research is done, you probably will need you may need another town meeting article. But this keeps it in the discussion, is all I'm saying. Like, yeah, looking at a Google map isn't going to do it. You need a plot plan. You need, to identify who each owner is, what access we're talking about, all the Chapter 90 rules. You need to give all the context, which, yeah, again, this doesn't do. But I think we need to keep talking about it. It's not something we should give up on, because in 2017 people wanted it. I don't know why I ended with you.
I hear you, Jason. But I also have the same concerns that Erwin note, because presumably those property owners beyond the strips property have the same rights. And if they we know now that this neighborhood values the space, and I think they would be neighborly. If it were to change, are we ultimately potentially giving the public access to another property owner's, if it were to change over and we had a similar property owner that says, forget it, no, you can't.
But right now, it's not a great situation either. We have somebody who puts up telephone poles with a wire that people keep cutting, that the police keep cutting, so it's something that should just be
I know the folks there would like access to it. There are a lot of things that I would like that I can't get for various reasons.
But you can try.
I can try. But just another hypothetical. So this passes, we take the property, and then somebody buys that first house that has access to the beach, and they all of a sudden say, I don't want anybody using my beach. So nobody can even get past that to use the rest of the beach. And there are a lot of hypotheticals there that I think are somewhat problematic.
No, there's more.
I think you guys have a fabulous analysis of this. I know quite a bit about it, but I'm wondering why you're only talking about the option of taking, and that she's given a number of different options. I wonder, I don't know anything about this. Is public access easement less of a commitment by the town and less investment? Yeah. She gives a multiple different ways you could give access, and that easement I thought was a little easier to do than taking. Taking is a heavy lift.
Yeah, I still struggle with why is Nantasket Beach wide open? Like technically, homeowners on Nantasket Beach, Beach Ave, could slam a barrier in the way if they wanted to. Like, why do we have such a struggle for one piece of property when the rules on the other side of the peninsula don't exist?
We have struggles over there too, though.
We had one struggle. No, I don't understand it. Like, I thought that you had to have it open for passive to pass through, to get into that water. I mean, sitting there on the beach is one thing, but blocking a passage through, to me, it shouldn't be this much of a struggle. Like, it should be a no-brainer to be able to get through this, but...
It's been a while since I looked at the memo that Jim prepared, and I didn't want to necessarily go through it all, because it does require so much more discussion, but I think there's that. I know Brian was taking a look at it, there's just so much more to I just don't want to see it. It sounds like maybe you're thinking, well, this isn't worth continued discussion. But I just don't mean it is. I think there's a later time.
I would like to find a way to resolve the issue is what I'm getting at, but I just don't understand how the rules are different in different sections of town, I guess.
Yeah.
Ocean as opposed to bay. Okay, wow.
So we can
Any other thoughts on 44? No? Okay, town manager updates?
Updates, I guess, just again, a reminder, annual town meeting is Monday, May 4th, begins at 7 p.m. At Hull High School. The seat cushions did come in today. They look great. And will be available. They are actually soft. Just a note, you have to peel the sticker off the back to make it and poof. But they'll be available along with other 250th commemorative items at town meeting. Parking stickers look like they will be ready to go on sale online beginning Tuesday, May 5th. We finalized the City Hall website today, and the next cycle, the way the cycle works is the portal will be available on Tuesday, May 5th. And then we did have a DCR meeting this afternoon, and this was specific to the meeting I last reported on, where the our town engineer, or I should say our town engineer, the engineer on the two-way road study, we had a member of the HRA present, and staff met with DCR staff to start reviewing the quadrants in their climate parkway adaptation report, and start talking a bit about, what are priorities in each of those quadrants, where is their alignment or not. We did talk quite a bit about community engagement, and so we created a smaller subgroup that will start tackling how to approach the community engagement, because it really is a lot of information, both on the town side as well as the DCR side, that we need the public to, that we need to put out to the public and have them start thinking about, so that when we have these forums and we need to make these public decisions, they're able to weigh in. So I think that's it for town updates this week. Stacey, I'm leaving out. I don't know if you wanted to report the coastal cleanup.
Oh, no, you go ahead, because I just know that it happened. That's really all that I knew.
Oh, I was just going to say that it was a great cooperative effort between the Center of Coastal Studies and the town. DPW workers were out there helping with their large machines, and there were lots of volunteers out there, so it looked like it was pretty amazing. It went well. And from an HR perspective, we are finalizing both the activities coordinator and the finance office manager for the light plant very shortly after.
And the activities coordinators for the senior center?
For the senior center. Yes. We are still looking for, DPW is still looking for a heavy equipment machine operator, so that job is
Thank you. Jason?
I went to the MBTA, or I zoomed into the MBTA Advisory Board Ferry Committee meeting today. Just a couple things to note. They, I think I've talked before, it was only like a year and a half ago that the MBTA hired their first director of ferry operations, David Perry. Well, now they've hired 2 other people, one a deputy director for ferry operations who came from Boston Harbor Cruises, and then a project manager specific for ferries who also has some technical background. So that's it's just another, it just reveals, how much the MBTA has kind of switched in terms of really investing in the ferry system. So that's great. They said that seasonal weekend service will start May 23rd and go to October 11th. There was some possibility, it was a little, it wasn't clear to me about maybe that going beyond October 11th, but actually I think they were just saying the schedule, not weekdays, not weekends, because the schedule times change. So, but anyway, we know for sure May 23rd to October 11th. And then they said ferry rides were at 1.5 million rides last year, which it's still not at the peak ridership of 2019, but it's still getting closer.
That's great.
Yeah. And then Derby Day for the Carousel is this Friday. Always a fun time. It is both Kentucky Derby themed and Paul Revere Colonial 250th themed. We pretend to bet on the horses, and there's a finish line, and then you get a prize if you've bet on your horse. And then Whole Pride is doing its first 5K on Sunday. It's called Over the Rainbow 5K. It's Sunday at 9 a.m. It's at the high school. And I just want to say thank you to the police department for really helping us with organizing the course. We're all set, with our paid detail for that, and just hope for good weather.
Looking for registrations?
Registration is great. I think I heard today we're at 120, but people can still register day of. They just won't get a T-shirt. We're as available. And you can walk it, you can run it, you can bring your dog, you can bring your stroller.
Good. Should be a fun day.
And the Life Saving Museum is doing a water station, so thank you to the Life Saving Museum if they're watching. That's it. Sorry.
I don't have updates, but I would like, I kind of forgot to bring this up to you earlier. We lost a member of our community, Joe Cole, and I thought it would be fitting to read his obituary because he was a legend, an absolute legend. So if you don't mind, Joe Cole, a beloved and steadfast figure in the Hull community, passed away peacefully on April 22nd this year. Joe was the son of Francis and Loretta Cole and grew up in a large family in the Hull Village. As a dedicated communicant at St. Mary's of the Assumption Parish, Joe found a spiritual home that reflected his unwavering commitment to faith and fellowship. His loyalty extended beyond the church walls to his role as the longest-serving member of the Knights of Columbus, Hull Council 4865, a testament to his steadfast devotion and service. Joe's contribution to the community was also marked by his 37 years of dedicated work as a maintenance worker for the Hull Public Schools. His commitment to supporting education in school was evident in his near-perfect attendance at Hull High School sporting events, where his enthusiastic support encouraged young athletes and fostered school spirit. This is the part I remember most about him. In addition to his community and professional life, Joe delighted in his personal hobbies. A treasure hunter at heart, he spent many hours combing the local beaches with his metal detector, always in search of hidden gems, good humor, and the love of a chance were further reflected in his fondness for scratch tickets, where he was never shy about trying his luck. And Joe's extended family included former Hull Selectwoman Grace Coleman, highlighting the deep connections that enriched his life. He leaves behind a legacy of kindness, dedication, and community spirit that will be remembered and honored by all who loved him. He's one of those icons, and we couldn't get by this without, acknowledging it.
Thank you.
That's all I had.
I just want to remind folks that town election is the 18th, Monday, February, May 18th. There are a number of seats and positions that are up, so I encourage everybody to get out and vote. If you're not registered, please come by town clerk's office and register, or you could do that online. As always, any town election is important because it helps decide the future direction of town.
So I got one thing. So I got contacted today, Jen. It says, hi, Brian. I heard today that the senior center is going to be closed part of the day on Monday for spring cleaning. I'm curious to understand why something like this could not be done on a Friday when the center is already closed. They've canceled bingo and knitting, which many of our seniors very much look forward to doing. So can you just look into that?
I would be happy to look into that.
I mean, if you're going to stop bingo, you might have to have a police presence down there, so just let you know that. So.
Understood.
That's all I have.
Good, thanks. Thank you for that. Okay, I move to go into executive session to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, and that the chair declare that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the body, to comply with or act under the authority of the attorney-client privilege, and to consult with legal counsel and obtain legal advice pursuant to the attorney-client privilege, read the Western Avenue title findings. Also, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, that the chair declare that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the body, to comply with or act under the authority of the attorney-client privilege, and to consult with legal counsel and obtain legal advice pursuant to the attorney-client privilege, read Bayside marketing lease, and to conduct contract negotiations with non-union personnel, to comply with or act under the authority of the attorney-client privilege, and that the chair declare that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the body, with reference to the town manager contract, and we will not resume in open session. Roll call.
McCann, aye.
Gray, aye.
Nessoff, aye.
McCarthy, aye.
Let's take a little bio break while we're